of the game playing that Ashe. It's no really any surprise that they're going to look to prioritize that once more, because Ashe, especially in Korea, has been highly valued, very strong support, strong AD carry right now that just offers a fantastic engage, really good pick potential. Laning phase isn't too bad, especially with the range supports that can now offer a lot more in terms of powerful laning phase, because now it's less decided by the AD carries and more by the supports that those AD carries are paired up with. And so going up against something like a Braum could give them a big advantage when things like the Nami are still available, and the Lulu could potentially come out here.
That's true, yeah. Been a lot of talk around that pick very recently with the small changes to that champion. And Braum and Olaf are going to be picked up here from Fnatic. So, of course, Yellow Star going to be picking that one up into the bottom lane. Has generally played more of the range supports, but has played a decent amount of Braum as well. 5 games, I believe. Like
the flex of the Olaf as well, because we know that he can fit very nicely in the jungle. We saw Amazing have a great performance on it against the Unicorns of Love yesterday. Unfortunately for Origin, they weren't able to claw out the win. So Unicorns of Love, they definitely know how to play around it after their success yesterday. And to be honest, the thing about Olaf that you have to be very mindful of is how easy it is for him to get onto the backline. But you have this issue, like the Jarvan effect is what I like to call it, where you dive straight onto the backline. But because of how easy it is for him to get onto the backline, sometimes it can be difficult for any real follow-up. So something like Alessandro would be great to follow up on that, because it's so much easier to follow up and get onto that backline with it.
Exactly. And Unicorns of Love, they have picked up the next 2 champions. Chachi going to pick up the Shen. No real surprise with that not being banned. Also had the choice of Trundle if he wanted it. And mid lane Exile going back to these control mages, which Unicorns seem to have better success with over going with those assassins.
I had the opportunity to chat to Exile yesterday, and he was saying how he was shifting his mentality more towards these control mages, because that is what the meta is right now. Heavy wave clear, big team fighters, and so far he's been having better performances on these control mages, which is a testament to the growth that Unicorns of Love have shown. And right now, Unicorns, they're just drafting a perfect Unicorns of Love comp, because Exile, now that he can play these control mages, he's going to do well in the Victor, hold his own in the mid lane. Veritas on the Ashe, combined with the global pressure from the Shen, things are looking up for the Unicorns.
It is indeed. Now over to Fnatic. Reckless going to pick up that Ezreal into ADC, but again we see the Rumble. Seeing more and more Rumble into the top lane. Love watching that champion though. Very exciting to watch mid-game, late-game, and still does a ton of damage as well. Generally seeing Protobelt as a first item pickup, so very fun champion to watch.
Works very well into the Shen as well. Fnatic looking more towards the zone control sort of teamfight style of play right now, when you can synergize the Braum ultimate with the Rumble ult to set up those 6 teamfight plays. We did see Gamsu bring out the Rumble yesterday, and I mean, in the early game, they had some shaky performances. We did see that 2v2 gank in the top, which went horribly wrong for Fnatic, but they were able to turn it around in the late game, and Gamsu was able to land some very impressive ults towards that. The problem I see right now for Fnatic is they lack very hard crowd control. They have no real way to kick off a fight if they want it. This seems to be a recurring trend that we're seeing from this lineup.
In fact, from a lot of people, I feel. Honestly, they draft lineups like this and don't have real hard engage. They have the equalizer, and that's like it. So if they run away, well, I guess we have to just reset and hope for the best next time. Next 2 pickups coming in from Unicorns to round out the lineup will be the Rek'Sai and Thresh. And Move played a lot of Rek'Sai. 10 of his games so far have been Rek'Sai, so definitely his most favorite champion so far.
So I actually really like this draft coming out from Unicorns, because you have some great pick potential, you have a lot of global pressure, you can set up the 1-3-1 if you want with the Shen and the Rek'Sai, you can either set up for a 1-4 as well. The team fighting is pretty solid, they have fantastic scaling with the Victor and the Ashe, very well-rounded composition that can also hold its own during the laning phase. So overall for Unicorns, they've drafted a very solid, well-rounded comp that can typically do well against most things.
What a Fnatic going to round up their lineup. Come on, we both won it, Vedius. We both won it.
No,
really?
I was so excited for the possibility of the Talia, but it's going to be the Rise.
All right,
I'm
biased now.
Sense.
I'm all going for Unicorns of Love. I hope you win this game out. Beating us with the Talia.
Oh man, all we've been discussing this week is, Miles, I really want to cast the Talia game. I've done so much prep for it. But unfortunately, it's not going to be the case. It is going to be the Rise. So if we're looking at the Fnatic composition right now, definitely working more towards the mid and late game. Something that we have been seeing a lot from Fnatic, sticking towards what we have been discussing a lot on the analyst desk and the casters. And again, it's this lack of hard engage that they have, but you cannot count Fnatic out because as long as they have a solid early game, as long as they don't let too many advantages slip away from them, they have a very solid mid-game spike. They will transition very nicely into the late game, and they actually have some very powerful teamfight prowess. The only thing that concerns me is the risk of this Olaf potentially running rampant. But fortunately, you do have the Rumble ult, which has a very long range, so if he gets it onto the backline while that Olaf is running amok, perhaps that's the sort of thing that they need to shut down this Ashe, which typically is going to struggle to get away from that Rumble ult.
Pretty much going to have to find some creative ways to get into these fights and maybe look for some flanks with the Olaf, get the Rumble in there as well. But you can see the full lineups of both the players and also the champions themselves in just a second. But while we have this time, remember to jump on Twitter before the game begins and use hashtag UOL win or hashtag FNC win. Show your support on Twitter. I know already in the studio we have it, but you guys at home as well, chime in and we'll be seeing what you guys think at home as well.
All right, this is going to be an exciting one as the team's just revving up. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you're all extremely excited, but we are going to jump into a pause very briefly. So keep that enthusiasm, keep the hype.
Keep it going for like the 5 minutes we potentially have a pause. Just keep on going.
Yes, keep it going. Fantastic. But this gives us an opportunity to dissect and break down the compositions a little bit more. So as we mentioned from the Unicorns of Love, they do have a very well-rounded composition. And by that, I mean that they have a number of options. And this to me means that you don't have to tunnel, you don't have a very difficult setup, which sometimes you can see drafts come out as. You're just like, oh, you have one win condition, you must get picks, you have to have a very early snowball. Well, for Unicorns of Love, they don't have that. Even if they fall behind a little bit in the early game, they have many avenues to come back. You have lots of stalling techniques. But on top of that...
All right, here we go. Now we're in game,
ladies and gentlemen.
Round two.
Round two.
Second time's the charm. We just had a couple issues with Veritas, and now we're back in, and we're into game.
So,
all right, continue point, Veritas.
Continue, yes. Unicorns of Love, a very well-rounded composition in the sense that they have a number of options. If they fall behind during the early game, they can stall things out with the Victor wave clear. They have the global pressure from the Shen.
This is what a crowd sounds like when they're literally fighting against each other. Fnatic fans looking for the chant. Got some spelling bee champions out here in the crowd.
Oh, man.
Meanwhile, the Unicorns going with the solid just Unicorns chant. I like it. Man, it sounds like Fnatic are winning currently.
I know,
Unicorns
right?
Love need to step it up.
Man, it's credit to the players for being able to maintain their composure when there's
I mean,
so
to be
much
fair,
fan
most
support.
of them can't hear that because of the white noise in their headsets, but yeah, we can hear it.
So, I've been trying to get a point out that the fans are now giving me an opportunity to get to, but forget the point because Fnatic, they're going for a deep invade.
I'll come back for it. We'll come back for your point.
Because both teams looking for the lane swap. Right now, Unicorns of Love, they have the weaker 1v1 against the Rumble and the Shen. You can be a real bully with that Rumble, with the Flame Spitter, making his life obnoxious. And interestingly, look at this. Unicorns of Love went for a very early swap, so Fnatic aren't even going to spot this one out. They're just going to have to go off of their own intuition. And because Unicorns of Love, right now they don't have enough time, they're going to have to commit to the lane swap. And it's up to Fnatic to now make the decision as to where they want to go.
Just looking at these Keystone Masteries, pretty standard junglers going for Strength of the Ages, mid laners. Exile actually going for the Funlords, looking for a bit more damage in lane, but in top lane, Reckless is going to walk right into this bush. It's going to be a flay from Hillasang, instant flash out from Reckless. Did not want to take extra damage from that initial trade, because of course he's not going to go back to base, so really wants to preserve that health for laning phase. So nice little bit of an early advantage from Unicorns.
Reckless, he tried to use the Q to try and check out the brush, see whether or not anyone was in there, but Unicorns sticking at the far end of the brush to avoid any sort of poke meant that Reckless had no idea. And to be honest, it was just a big risk from him overall. He could have taken the safe route round, but instead ended up taking a bit of damage. And now this is going to allow the Unicorns to get that early level 2. And they can just zone the rest of Fnatic away because that Thresh will have the ever so slight lane advantage, or range advantage, sorry, that can now just bully Reckless around with. And this is a great start for the 2 versus 2 for the Unicorns.
And we also get to see the 1v1 as well in the bottom lane instead of just seeing a lane swap. So we actually get to see that matchup. You were saying in Champions, like, oh, gonna hold that for a second as Reckless almost got caught by a hook there, but Rumble should have the advantage in that 1 versus 1 because he doesn't have to stay strictly melee range, but Chachi will try and put a bit of damage down as Move is looking for this gank, hits him with a Prey Seeker for the vision, and comes in with a knockup as well. Chachi, does he have enough damage with Move here? Gamsu is so slow backing off. That's going to be first blood for Move.
Great gank coming out from Move. He realized that Gamsu had set up a very early push, trying to harass with the Flame Spitter. And unfortunately for Gamsu, it results in him overextending, move very easy transition through the river to set up for that first blood for the Unicorns of Love.
Really, really nice. I wasn't even sure they have enough damage. It was like these two big tanky bruisers just hitting away at that Rumble, but being so low level, they do a lot of damage.
Rek'Sai in the early game, especially with a red buff, can do a surprising amount of damage. And look at this, Exile able to exert his pressure as well because he knows the right now move is the one that has further control. Yellowstar eats the hook.
Man, Yellowstar hitting a crazy hook on the Yellowstar as he was jumping back to a minion. Literally just matrixed it through those minions. But not going to result in too much other than a bit of poke onto Yellowstar.
So all 3 lanes going well for Unicorns, but look at move. He's going again for Gamsu.
I feel like I've seen this one before. Level 2 Gamsu, and he knows he's done for. He's just going to try and get some farm before he goes down. This is horrific from Gamsu. Literally has to just stand still and take it like a man. Second kill over to the Unicorns. This is like some classic Sudoku tilt tactics where you just wait in lane and wait for them to come back.
What is going on for Fnatic? They wanted the standard 2 versus 2. They wanted Gamsu to be that lane aggressor. And so far, all this aggression is doing is backfiring for Fnatic as Gamsu, now he has been killed twice in what should be a favorable matchup for him, and Unicorns of Love recognizing this, punishing him over and over. Very smart from Chachi to freeze the lane where it is, forcing Gamsu to once again overextend. They couldn't get the vision deep enough to predict the second gank coming out from Move, and right now every single lane is going in favor of the Unicorns of Love.
So you see him bot lane here, Vedius. I see him move.
Dum 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 dum.
He's got the Tremor Sense going. I think he wants this to happen again.
I think
he's
he
looking for
does.
the tunnel, so
he's going for the flank. Move.
For a third time.
Oh,
I mean, Gamsu's
no.
gonna be like, there's no way he could be here again.
He's
pushing
put the
up
wards
so
in the
far.
river. He has no idea.
Oh no! He doesn't have flash. Move's gonna come in for yet another gank. Gets the knock up. In with the taunt. The CC chain. And Gamsu, I don't even know he can get away. Chachi's gonna flash after him. Taking the tower aggro. One more on to attack. Gamsu's gonna survive by the skin of his teeth.
Gamsu just able to get away from that third gank. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me thrice. Get lucky, punk. And Gamsu's going to be able to get away from that one. So, fortunately for him, he doesn't give away another kill. But look at the lane. It's still frozen in Chachi's favor. Gamsu, he's just going to be denied even more farm. And Unicorns of Love just relentless with this pressure onto Gamsu.
I mean, honestly, Febvin and Reckless's build describes it best. All the tears really for Gamsu in this game. And it just begs the question, why push up again? Why?
I mean, he has no options because the lane is frozen. He needs Spirit to come to his lane and help him shove it under the turret so that it can be bounced back in his favor so he can at least get something back from this. But unfortunately, Spirit is showing no signs of helping him out. He's left Gamsu on an island to fend for himself, and he's just focusing on himself. And to be fair, Spirit, from all the ganking that Move has been initiating, Spirit has been trying to steal away some of the camps, been trying to pick up on the farm that Gamsu has been losing, and right now he is sitting at a pretty big CS advantage and a pretty big farm advantage over his opponent.
It's actually not too bad because having a level 6 Olaf at this stage when Move is only level 4 because of the pressure he's put on bot lane could result maybe in a kill bot lane since Spirit is around the area. And Move, of course, doesn't have his ultimate, so he can't get down bot very easy.
No flash for Chachi.
No flash for Chachi. He does have the Shadow Dash. We'll see if he can use it to good effect. He's going to trade off against Gamsu, but he misses the Shadow Dash. I don't think this is going to be enough damage now. Now he has to trade off with Spirit, but Gamsu needs to back away. Spirit will finish him off with one last undertow and find a kill in return.
So right now it's just a battle of the top laners as Spirit finally able to help out Gamsu. Comes in for the flank as Chachi is the one overextending, doesn't have the defensive vision, and Fnatic get themselves a kill on the board.
It means Spirit can come in for the invade once more. Move is only level 4. He does not want to go toe-to-toe with Spirit. But Move is going to come into the bot lane. He's level 4 versus level 5. But the Chachi TP with the ultimate. This is going to be a 2 versus 2 though. But the 2-man taunt may turn it in the Unicorns of Love's favor. Chachi trying to get in range of Gamsu. Just waiting on the cooldown on his E. Gamsu looking to slow him down with the electro harpoons. Meanwhile, Febvin going toe-to-toe with Move. Doesn't quite have the damage. Yes, he does with a flash away. Gamsu still trying to back up and may survive as Spirit comes down here to help him, but he's out of mana, but does have the red buff. Over time, he will be able to grind down Shen, but he's getting the upper hand. Meanwhile, Febvin taken out by Exile. This game is absolutely bonkers here, Vedius, and Spirit and Chachi are going to have an extremely prolonged trade, but don't mess with a Shen in a long trade with Twilight Assault. Chachi will take you down.
We heard it from Maxlaw. Saturday games are going to be more like scrims with action all over the map. These teams are still waking up, and we should have this more often, Pulse, because it is just action all across the map. I am definitely awake from what we've seen so far. Unicorns of Love once again with the early game lead. 1,500 gold in their favor right now. The 2 versus 2 is coming out ahead. The CS advantage for Chachi is absolutely massive. And the fans are just relentless for their support.
Yeah. It's got to get you riled up as well. You can feel the atmosphere in here.
It's only game 1 of the day, Pulse.
It is.
We have 3 more after this.
I hope every game is as action-packed as this one. Move is actually invading here as well. Exile's going to come and even get the donate. There we go, the aftershock damage. And man, we've had so many buffs traded back and forth, so many kills. And Spirit once more, he's going to come into the top lane. He knows there's a pink ward here, so there's no wards blocking his assault.
He has his ghost.
Hylissang goes down and immediately regrets his decision. Spirit is coming after him with the undertows. The ultimate from downtown in from Reckless. And Veritas trying to kite away, but the Berserker will take him out. Double kill.
Cowabunga, dude. Spirit picking himself up. 2 extra kills up in the top lane. He realized that Veritas and Hylissang were getting a little bit too big for their boots, pushing onto that tier 1 turret.
What are you doing?
Now move. He could potentially get collapsed on here, but he is going to be able to escape. He is that slippery Rek'Sai.
Surprised Gamsu didn't ult him.
But wow. The action just continues. Spirit using this level advantage that he has to straight up 2 versus 1. I mean, for the longest time, he was holding his own against both Hylissang and Veritas. Yeah. You have that low mobility Ashe. Hylissang not going to be able to provide that same sort of peel through the Ragnarok. And to be honest, when you have that ultimate coming out through Reckless as well, that was all the damage that they needed to secure themselves 2 kills in the top. And now look at Spirit. 3, 1, and 0 on this Olaf. Level 8. Actually on par with the highest level honor, just behind Exile. But because of the pressure he put up in the top, Unicorns of Love going to use that as an opportunity to go pick themselves up the first Cloud Drake. And yes.
Pretty much, Vedius, yes. I mean, that's what happens when your jungler just jungles for the entire game and just comes out of the jungle at like 10 minutes, just incredibly hench.
Yeah, I mean, he has the tier 2 boots, which means that he's fast anyway, but when you stack that on top of the Ghost, just notice that Spirit isn't even remotely affected by that box. And Veritas, this early on, doesn't have the damage to really deal with Spirit. And then when you have the ultimate on top of that from Reckless, it's more than enough to deal with it. So, look at Yellowstar, still level 5. He's going to eat the hook.
Man, Hylissang just does not stop hitting hooks this game. Move's going to come in with the Dark Lantern, and Yellowstar just has nowhere to go. Tries to put damage onto Veritas. That's another kill to the Unicorns.
So we have a ganked up in the top, and look at Spirit. He's moving back to the bot. The junglers constantly swapping sides, always looking for an opportunity to put pressure down. And oh my word, they knew that Yellowstar didn't have the flash. The ultimate onto Veritas initially looked a little bit risky, but they punished the fact that he is only level 5, doesn't have that big disengage ultimate available, and that results in Unicorns of Love going to be picking up the first tower of the game.
I mean, hey, it's working, right? Like, they're fighting constantly, but Unicorns of Love over time are gradually getting objectives, gradually getting extra gold over their opponents. And man, Hylissang's hooks, that one was so close onto Reckless, but feels like it's going to be one of those games for Hylissang where he just hits everything. You know, you have those tilt games where everything just misses. This is the exact opposite.
Certainly seems to be the case, and I just want to keep my eyes on what Spirit is up to right now, because he is flanking through the jungle. He's farming, stealing away a lot of the cams. There is somewhat of a big wave building towards Chachi. If Fnatic wanted, they could look for a dive, but it is always risky up against the Shen with that Twilight Assault to mitigate a lot of the Olaf's damage. So it looks like they are just going to back off. They realize how risky it is, and they're just going to continue the farm first. So we have a bit of a lull. We can use this as
bit of a lull. It's been like a minute.
We can use this as an opportunity to evaluate the game so far, but we might not have the chance to because Spirit, he's getting collapsed on.
Yeah, he was invading, and this may be a bit too deep. He's going to use the Ghost and the Ragnarok. May have been caught in there by the gravity field, so burning 2 big resources from Spirit. This opens up top lane, though, for Fnatic to hammer away at this tower. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Veritas will be rotating, so can Unicorns make anything happen? Of course, they have all of their members situated on the bottom side of the map. They will be pushing up, but I feel like Fnatic are just going to get this tower here. Actually, it was full health, so they needed at least another minion wave, and the TP in from Chachi, maybe not.
He wants to defend that turret because they want to have that tempo advantage over their opponents. The arrow actually comes out from the Ashe. I wonder if that's going to hit anyone. Ooh, good sidestep from Yellowstar to avoid that.
He hit Chachi.
Veritas' whole goal was to stop Yellowstar's back. Unfortunately for him, not going to be able to do it, but he does delay it, which means that Unicorns, they're just going to continue this tempo advantage because now Gamsu, he tried to use the ultimate to delay the tower push coming out from the Unicorns, and unfortunately, it wasn't enough because of the fact that Fnatic's bottom lane, their back was also denied, which means that Veritas and Hylissang going to get onto this turret first. Fnatic aren't going to be able to respond in time, and that's going to be another turret advantage going in the favor of Unicorns. So right now, they're just playing the map beautifully.
Wow, pretty solid. I mean, very reminiscent of the games we saw yesterday, honestly, from Unicorns of Love against OG as well. And now in the bottom lane, taking another tower, 2-0. Big farm advantage. Oh, all those refillable potions from Fnatic. So many refillable. Top lane fight as well, as per usual. Level 10 versus level 8. This is what happens when you have a Shen here. Spirit's going to join the party. Spirit's Refuge will block a lot of those auto attacks. Gamsu kind of wandering in and out. Still trying to be the bait for Chachi, but he's going to have to flash away.
So Chachi drawing 2 members up to the top half of the map. Unfortunately, the rest of the Unicorns aren't really able to gain very much off the back of that. They're trying to put a bit of pressure down onto the bottom half of Fnatic's jungle. And Febiven struggling against the immense wave clear coming out from Exile. Right now, Unicorns just doing whatever they can to constantly exert their pressure over Fnatic. And it's a little bit unfortunate for Chachi, who did use his flash, perhaps getting a little bit too overzealous, trying to force that plan to Gamsu. But you now see how after all that early game pressure that Move had put down towards Gamsu has now given Chachi such a big advantage that there's nothing that Gamsu can do about it.
So if we pay attention to statistics, Vedius, Fnatic are basically screwed. Because at 50 minutes, if they have a goal deficit, they've only won 1 game.
Which is yesterday,
right?
right?
1-8. Yes. So yeah, wrap this one up. Game 2, boys. 15 minutes and they are down 3,000 gold to Unicorns of Love, who also have that Cloud Dragon. Next one's going to be Mountains. So do you think we're going to see Fnatic fight over this one? As everyone will be clustered around there from Unicorns, maybe they can utilize the ult from Gamsu and actually get in there with the Berserker?
I mean, that's the big question for Fnatic right now, because they do still have a good scaling composition. Reckless working towards the Iceborne build, going more towards that kiting style of play. And Febiven on this rise, you can see he has picked up the tier. Still doesn't have that many stacks on it, about halfway through completing it. So Fnatic are going to be waiting towards this late game. And Rumble, of course, he needs to have completed those big items, things like the Rylai's, things like the Leandries, to where he reaches that big power spike. And so Fnatic, I feel like they need to just let this dragon go because they don't have the power right now to properly contest. And if they try and force something too aggressively, it's just going to create an even larger deficit. So for now, just give away the Man in Drake. Yes, it is a nice buff, but it is only 1. And you can look to try and contest more towards the 20 to 25 minute mark once you've got those big items for big items completed. Yeah. So for Fnatic, just chill out. You know, have a bevy. It's fine. Yeah. There's no need to rush things. I'm sure Olaf has got plenty.
Put the kettle on.
Yeah.
But,
where's Deirdre?
Where is Deirdre? Yeah, came up and helped us on Challenger, but here we go. This will be the Mountain Dragon going over to the Unicorns of Love. Just need to make sure that they don't let all of the dragons get away from Fnatic, because we've seen often games, whoop, arrow down mid lane, almost onto Febiven. If he'd backed off 1 step further, would have been taken down. But we see a lot of games where it just snowballs out of control. Unicorns could just keep control of the map and just take absolutely everything. But Fnatic are able to trade the tower in the top lane for the dragon, so it's not horrific. Move is showing his presence in mid lane, just going to poke away at Yellowstar with the Prey Seeker and allow Unicorns to take a mid tower. So again, net gain for Unicorns again.
I mean, Unicorns have just played this early game spectacularly, in all honesty, because we have to think back to Reckless taking a little bit too much damage before he even got to lane, which gave Veritas and Hylissang the level advantage and the push advantage, which meant that they could slowly work their way down onto the tower. And then Move putting all of his ganks down into the bottom half of the map, which drew Spirit's attention to all the side lanes, which meant that Exile could just constantly shove this Ryze under the turret, who couldn't match his wave clear. So you had 3 constantly shoving waves coming out from, or winning lanes even, from the Unicorns of Love. And then once they got that top turret, they immediately swapped their bottom lane all across the map to enable them to take these tier 1 turrets everywhere. And so now, Unicorns of Love with a big gold advantage simply due to the map advantage they've been able to gain from this very impressive early game.
I'm still concerned for Fnatic in terms of how they're actually going to get into fights, because as you were talking about in Champion Select, I mean, you have no real hard engage. Like, other than Febiven just flash, like, snaring someone, or like Yellowstar getting a flank and ult. So it's still going to be difficult for Fnatic, and they're also down, so they don't have the map advantage to even like secure vision around an objective first. They can't always be like first to the punch.
So they do have the Righteous Glory, which will help the team close the gap, but it's a bit of an odd one, because you have the Rise, which typically wants to be in those team fights, has a lot of power, but then you've also got that Ezreal that's constantly doing damage from the backside. So because this Ezreal will be doing damage in fights, obviously, he won't have the same sort of impact as, say, a Trinity Force Ezreal would in the mid game. So they're relying on Gamsu in the mid game to be one of that big power threats, but because of how far behind he has been put, that's resulting in Fnatic giving away a lot of these objectives. And as you rightly said, it does make me concerned for these team fights, but for Unicorns of Love, right now, they don't actually have to force any team fights because they have the global pressure from Shen. We've seen multiple times how Gamsu cannot match up against the Shen, and that's forcing Spirit to be dragged all across the map because, to be honest, the lanes are just struggling against the constant pressure that is coming out from the Unicorns. And that means that if Unicorns play it right, they could get one of those very clean games of League of Legends where you actually have no full-on team fights, which I'm sure would be disappointing for the fans. But from a League of Legends execution standpoint, I mean, it's great for the Unicorns because it comes back to the thing we were discussing very early on, which is the growth of this team. And initially, we considered them to be that 10th place. But now, playing this well in the early game against Fnatic, I mean, that's very impressive.
Well, if I've learned anything from Hove is Bread, the best of both is generally the best. So we'll see if Unicorns of Love can also have that action as well as, you know, taking this game cleanly against Fnatic. We'll see if that is the case. Still got that gold lead. Haven't really pushed anything in the last little bit, but obviously it's kind of hard now because they took down all of the Allo turrets, and now getting to those inners a little harder unless they get a pick. But Move still has control over this jungle. Will be taking away this pink ward. Spirit's going to see him, but doesn't know just how many members happen to be lurking around the corner, which happens to be many from Unicorns of Love in the bottom lane. They're now pushing up. Kind of running out of minions, but only Gamsu and Yellowstar here. I feel like Gamsu may have to pop the ultimate. Meanwhile, mid lane, Exile under attack, but Chansey's here to save him. Spirit's Refuge will buy him a little bit of time while Spirit is still chasing after him. Needs this last undertow, but is actually just going to walk up to him instead. Meanwhile, mid lane fight continues. Chansey, he's dropping low. He's got help from Move, but Yellowstar's keeping him in place to allow Fevin to unleash his power on top of him. Gamsu looking to close in around Move, just keep him at bay while Reckless picks up the kill. 3-1 trade for Fnatic.
So we were worried about how Fnatic were going to force these fights. Well, all they're going to do is walk down mid and get the collapse down onto an overextended Exile. Chansey tried to provide the support with his ultimate, but it looks like the fight's not over yet.
The equalizer will actually do some dividends in this fight. Another kill onto Hylissang, set up by Gamsu.
Great collapse coming out from Fnatic. They realized that Hylissang had no real way to escape from that equalizer, and they get themselves the kills, they get themselves the turret in the mid, and Fnatic slowly working their way back into this game, which is exactly what they needed to do, because right now Unicorns putting so much pressure across the map. And let's just have a look at this. Exile just a little bit too overextended in the mid lane. The collapse comes out from Spirit from the flank. Featherman uses the flash very aggressively, and to be honest, there's just not enough peel. There's not enough that Exile can do to deal with the damage from Spirit. And then you get a bit of a split target focus from Unicorns, because at this point, Unicorns should have just disengaged from the fight. They should have taken the 1-for-1, but Move and Chansey just keep on with the aggression on the backline. They don't have the damage to deal with Featherman and Reckless, and with Yellowstar there, acting as that peel tank, there's just no way that they're going to be able to get those extra kills. So, unfortunately for Unicorns, a little bit too aggressive, falling into the hands of Fnatic right there and handing over a few too many objectives, which in reality they shouldn't have.
That was a big deal as well. That was 2,000 gold that Fnatic managed to close in on the gap up against Unicorns. And up until that point, honestly, Fnatic, as we were just mentioning, doesn't have a way to get into a fight. But being able to capitalize on the positioning of Exile is really good. It was just a problem with that Unicorns went too deep on trying to save Private Exile when they should have just left him out to dry and just said, well, you screwed up, just die, and then we'll just carry on with the rest of the game. As it was, lost a lot from that, losing mid-turret and those 4 kills. Fnatic, see if they can contest over this Mountain Dragon now. It's up in 7 seconds. Move's going to take the crab away most likely, but it has been warded already. They do have Chansey pushed up in the bottom side, so do have positioning and vision over it.
But look at the items now, Pulse, because a lot of them have been completed. These were the spikes that we were talking about for Fnatic that they wanted to use. Teleport comes out from Gamsu.
The equalizer comes down, and Unicorns of Love are getting shredded. Spirit's going to go down and return for a 1-on-3, but Chansey trying to escape from this, uses the Shadow Dash, but it just needs one skill shot to connect to him, where he is basically just going to die instantly to this 4-man death squad of Fnatic. Yeah, he's out of there, but the Dragon is over to Fnatic. I didn't even see how that fight kicked off.
Well, so many summoner spells still unavailable for Unicorns of Love as they actually force themselves into a choke point, allowed for Gamsu to get the fight that they needed. They're going to be able to pick up the Drake off the back of that one, and Fnatic, they've reclaimed control over this game, even though they are still at a goal deficit, putting so much more pressure down the map, and now Gamsu, he could be in some trouble.
Yeah, Chachi in this one-on-one. Gamsu was able to slow him down with electro harpoons so he can make his escape. Chachi still getting the better of that matchup. Of course, having his early kills helped him towards those item spikes sooner, even though he went for the Sunfire Cape. Does have a bit of magic resist now. You can see the damage is still good from Twilight Assault in those one-on-ones, but there we can see the setup to this fight. Man, look how fast Spirit is.
So the teleport flank comes out from Gamsu, and Febiven forces Unicorns of Love into this choke point, which just allows the Equalizer plus the Braum ultimate combo to just do so much work. Because not only do you get slowed from the Braum ult, you get slowed from the Rumble ult, and then you also have this constant AoE damage coming out from Febiven with a running Spirit into your face. Unicorns of Love, that was just the worst possible place for them to fight. And we were wondering whether or not Fnatic would be looking to contest these objectives around the 20 to 25 minute mark. Well, after winning that fight in the mids, they are now looking to be a little bit more aggressive, look to put a little bit more pressure down onto the Unicorns of Love. And I mean, this is looking rough for the Unicorns because very solid early game, they were playing the map very well, and then one big mistake from Exile of overextension, and Unicorns of Love just seem to start collapsing. They're not recognizing their summoner spells, they're not setting up for objectives properly, and they need to start re-evaluating what they're doing wrong. They need to think back what their win conditions are. They have the Ashe. They have great pick potential. The double teleports are now down. They can look to try and get a catch. They also have their teleport up for Chachi. If somebody's going to force a fight, it needs to be the Unicorns, and they can abuse the lack of summoner spells coming out from Fnatic right now. But it's about Unicorns of Love thinking about these things, because when you fall behind like this after such a big lead, it does have an effect on your mentality. You just need to be focused. The Spirit goes in once more.
He's so fast, literally just sprints towards Hylissang. Another great equalizer, keeping Veritas in place, trying to kite around that, while the re-engage comes out from Chachi, but it is enough to take out Gamsu. Meanwhile, Hylissang slowed down by the Glacial Fissure, but ultimately that's going to result in a 1-on-0 advantage Unicorns.
So it looks like Fnatic not quite having enough hard crowd control to lock down the targets that they needed. Hylissang was in a good enough position to provide the support that his AD carry wanted to enable him to get out of that sticky situation. And then as Fnatic tried to continue with the aggression, that resulted in Exile being in a perfect spot to just throw down the damage to turn the fight around in their favor. And I mean, Unicorns of Love, that was smart. They realized that they couldn't just take the straight 5v5. They tried to go for the disengage. They realized that Fnatic didn't have that hard CC. And now Unicorns are actually going to go for a hard commit on the Baron. Gamsu doesn't have teleport, neither does Febiven.
This seems kind of risky to me, Betty. Yes, Yellowstar's coming in from the bot side, Febiven closing in from the top. Unicorns of Love kind of 50-50 on whether they want to continue this. Veritas, it's not even hitting anything right now. Now they're committing. Yellowstar's going to get dragged in, and they will go for the fight. Double knockup out from Move. Febiven caught in the top side, and Move's trying to back away as Reckless is raining down hell on him. Hook onto Spirit could be what Unicorn of Love need to turn this.
Ooh.
Move's going to collapse. And meanwhile, Chachi is going to run away, while the rest of the team tries to get back to base, but it's not going to happen. And this will be the ace out from Fnatic, 5-4-1.
Indecision from the Unicorns of Love. They seemed to know what they were doing when going for that Baron, but when push came to shove, they could not commit. The arrow came down onto Febiven, and Unicorns did not collapse. There was another engage on the other side of the Baron pit. There were two members from Fnatic that were not there, and the Unicorns could not decide what they wanted to do, and it cost them the fight, it cost them the play, and it cost them the Baron. So have a look at how this set up. You can see Unicorns very hesitant. They have 5 members to the 3 of Fnatic. They go for an engage onto Yellowstar and Spirit. The arrow comes out onto Febiven, and you can just see Unicorns not being able to decide who they want to focus, and now they're forced into this choke point once again, which just sets up for all of the damage from Fnatic to just close down onto the rest of the Unicorns, and they get themselves the 5-for-1, they get themselves the Baron, and now Fnatic are in firm control of this game.
Man, so many times Unicorns in this game just kind of line up like bowling pins and just allow Gamsu and Reckless just to hit like multi-man ultimates. And it has resulted in some really bad team fights for them. Unicorns are so far behind now after that 3,000 gold advance that they had. So Fnatic managing to turn this one around.
Defying the stats.
Defying the stats, albeit from some mistakes, but good capitalization from Fnatic, identifying those opportunities. The win here, they'll be now 2-8 in deficits at 15 minutes. So I'm sure Fnatic, that's not the only reason why they're trying to win this game, but yeah, defying the stats. Fnatic going to this bot lane now, and they're taking a lot from this Baron. Be very interested to see what their Baron power play is after this sequence of plays.
The question now for the Unicorns of Love is how do they come back against this Fnatic lineup, because they do still have a composition that scales very well. Ashe working towards the actual more of Malmortius, which I can understand against the double AP composition. However, it is going to hurt his late game power when typically you want to pick up that Infinity Edge as soon as you can. But look at the two members from Reckless and Yellowstar. They're going to go for the collapse. He does have the Arcane Shift available.
Chachi may be in a little too deep. Gamsu, long-range equalizer, gets to slow down Yellowstar with the Glacial Fissure with the knock-up, and Reckless gets in range, and Chachi has nowhere to go. It's that someone needs to kill him. There we go. Reckless will take him out. Reckless with a godlike kill. 1-0. Another nice pick.
Chachi, if you're going to be overextending that much, you need to allow your team to put pressure somewhere else on the map. And unfortunately for him, there were no real objectives for him for the rest of his team to take. Unicorns, they're going to try and pick themselves up the Baron. Spirit is in close proximity. He could look to try and steal this, but I don't think he's going to get there in time. Whoop. Nope. So that is going to be a secure for move. So they will trade the second Mountain Drake, or the third Mountain Drake, sorry, for Chachi's life, which isn't too bad. But I mean, just all across the map, Fnatic are slowly clawing their way back, or now having firm control of the objective advantage. Now leading 5-3 in turrets, looking to make that 6-3. And Unicorns, they do have plenty of wave clear to stall this out, but their wave clear is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, if we're to be honest, it was Chachi's life for a dragon, but also 2 towers for Fnatic. So yeah, Move taking a bit of punishment there from Gamsu as well. And Fnatic taking all of the inner turrets as well, so they just need to crack that inhibitor line now and are in a really dominating position. Doesn't really matter too much that they couldn't initiate fights, because now they just need to just run at Unicorns. And Spirit doesn't really care about damage from towers anymore, so he's just going to charge at you regardless. There's only so far back you can run on the Rift, unfortunately. And
the double QSS coming out from Fnatic as well, so the hard crowd control that Unicorns have, the pick potential that their team composition allows for, has now been completely negated by this CC removal that Fnatic have picked up in their 2 carries. And things are now looking very, very scary for Unicorns of Love, because, I mean, these spikes have been completed, 3 items finished for a lot of the members of Fnatic. You can see the difference in gold is absolutely massive for the AD carries, but between the top laners, there's barely no differential whatsoever. So all of that early pressure that Move had put down onto Gamsu has been completely removed, and Gamsu, he even has a level advantage. So Fnatic have done a great job of coming back into this game.
Look at that gold graph. Fnatic have swung this game so much. It was all around that like 26-minute mark as well. Unicorns of Love just kind of let it all slip away. You can see another dip just after 20 minutes, which is when we saw that fight down the Dragon. And yeah, Fnatic just kind of 3 pivotal moments in this game have allowed this one to go over to Fnatic. And 31 minutes in, still for grabs for Unicorns, but very difficult. Because while they have this well-rounded team, it's Jack of all trades, master of none right now. They don't have like an incredible teamfight composition compared to Fnatic, where they thrive in teamfights if they can get into them. So.
I mean, they thrive in choke points, which is what Fnatic have actually been doing a good job of forcing Unicorns into. Because if we just look back at a lot of the fights, the real point at which Unicorns gained their, Fnatic gained their big advantage was when Exile was overextended in the mid. And then you saw this split decision-making in the team fights where Chachi and Move were trying to go onto the carries, and Veritas and Hylissang were focusing on the low member of Spirit. They could have traded 1-for-1 there, but because of the forced engagement coming out from Move and Chachi, that results in Unicorns of Love falling apart. They give away the team fight. That's all Fnatic need to hit their power spike sooner. They then force another fight with their Summoner Spell advantage, the double TP flank. And it was just Fnatic being very proactive with, okay, we've got the spikes we need. Let's use these spikes. Let's force a play when we know the Unicorns have spells down. And Unicorns of Love haven't been able to do the opposite. We saw Fnatic, they had a lot of abilities down, they had a lot of things unavailable, and Unicorns of Love, they tried to force the Baron. And there were many options available to them. They could have forced a fight. They had the numbers advantage. They could have got the collapse down onto a single target, and they just aren't decisive enough to make that sort of play. And unfortunately for them, because of that small indecision, the experience from Fnatic and the execution from Fnatic instantly capitalized. They got themselves the Baron, and ever since that point, they've just been in firm control.
Feels like a lot of Unicorns of Love's games recently have revolved around Barons. The first game we played yesterday against Origin came down to that Baron, and then they closed out. Second game, Baron got stolen away by an Ash Arrow, but it didn't go as badly as this. It just meant they were able to hold for a little bit longer. Fnatic have really capitalized big on this Baron. And all their carries are just so strong. Reckless hasn't even died yet this game, 7-0 and 7. But Spirit was setting up a lot in the early game for Fnatic. Is kind of linchpin of this composition, kind of running in from the front. Baron spawning in just a couple seconds. So Unicorn of Love, you can see, heading up to this side. This is a TP out from Febvin, trying to get the flank down, but the TP as well from Chachi. Going to be a little bit late, but they are completely cut off from their escape path. And Hylissang has to walk right into the equalizer. Will go down for the 3-0. Mood trying to tunnel away. Chachi knows this is a lost cause. Febvin the only casualty for Fnatic. 3-1 trade.
Great collapse coming out from Fnatic once again, using that double teleport play to get the collapse down onto Exile. He didn't even have an opportunity to flash right there, and so well played from Fnatic, because they're now going to move into the base. They're not interested in the Baron, they just want to secure themselves an inhibitor because they know of the wave clear from Exile, and they know at this point their team fighting power is just so much stronger than that of the Unicorns. And I mean, the death times are pretty long. I don't think they can go for the end, but they might look to take themselves a second inhibitor.
They can take a lot away from this play regardless, yeah. Second inhib tower goes down, and even the inhibitor, Chachi, is hovering off to the side. He's got a couple respawns coming in on Exile and Veritas, hook in onto Spirit, but he's very tanky, and with Ragnarok being used, cooldown on that ability isn't even that high at this stage in this game. Arrow is gonna go wide. Won't be able to get this engage off, and Reckless kind of having a field day, able to land these Qs all day. A move, we'll get the smite down and the knock up to the Spirit. Unicorns of Love trying real hard to make this engage happen. But Fnatic are able to scamper away while Move took a lot of beating. So after all that, they'll just fizzle out, but Baron's still alive and Dragon's coming up.
The problem for Unicorns is they honestly cannot force this play, because if you just look at the health bars from Fnatic, they are so ready for another fight if it breaks out. The mana bars has now been refilled to Reckless. He's already making his way back towards the Baron, and Unicorns are just using this as an opportunity to reclaim some vision so that they can look to try and force over the Baron, which is likely going to be the next objective for Fnatic, because 2 inhibitors have now been lost for the Unicorns. It is going to be so difficult for them to leave their base, and Fnatic, they just need to be patient, need to buy time and wait for a good opportunity to take it. They have the Mountain Drake, they have the vision control, and I mean, even if they don't take the Baron, the minions will end the game for them.
But there's 2 open inhibitors. Fnatic hovering around in the jungle now. Another hook by Hylissang, but again onto Spirit, not the optimal person to engage onto. Hylissang even uses the box there. And the Hawk shot will go right into the Baron pit, but Fnatic may even use this opportunity to go Baron now with a Trunk member on the Unicorns of Love. Move. Hovering around, still using the Tremor Sense to see who is looking to defend. It's going to be Spirit and Febvin. But this Baron is dying so quickly to Gamsu, Yellowstar, and Reckless. The rest of the team will come in to claim it. Spirit with the smite. Baron to Fnatic once more. This almost seems insurmountable for Unicorns of Love to come back in game 1.
Exactly that. There was nothing they could do. The super minions had pushed into the base of the Unicorns. They had Veritas stuck in the mid lane, Exile stuck in the top lane. They didn't have the double teleport available. Chachi perhaps could have gone in with Move, but it was super risky. And so Unicorns of Love just decided we'll concede it for now. And then we'll just hope that we can get some kind of comeback fight. Yeah. But Fnatic, they want to extend it. They want to guarantee their victory as much as possible. So while the inhibitors are still down, they're going to move towards this Elder Drake. Could be a bit of a risky play, but right now they are pinging towards that inhibitor. So it looks like they're just going to go for the push.
Yeah, worst case, they just draw Unicorns into another choke point and then equalize their faces. So there's really not very many losing plays right now for Fnatic. Very hard to kind of screw up, I feel. Move is kind of anticipating Fnatic to go for this Elder Dragon. He's going to get pinged out. There's wards scattered all over the Unicorn's jungle. And Febvin will start off the Elder Dragon, and Reckless will follow up as well. Really, it's just a game of zone move away, so he can't smite steal.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it. So yeah, Elder Dragon down to Fnatic as well. Everything is going perfectly for them. They're literally having their cake and eating it too. And Fnatic just need to close this out smartly. Just don't need to make any stupid missteps, and this will be an easy game 1 to pick up against the Unicorns. After such a good start as well.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't call it an easy game, because Unicorns definitely...
Not an easy game.
Yeah. Unicorns definitely had a great start. You can see that they did get themselves 10 kills in this game, and it was one hell of a bloodbath, but then when things started to slow down and it became more of a calculated decision-making game, Fnatic were able to claw their way back in, and now it's just a slow grind. Notice that Febiven has rotated up with Spirit to force these minions to push in with the empowered Baron buff, and that's forcing Unicorns of Love to split up with their wave clear having to go mid, and that's going to allow Fnatic to break into this final tier 3 turret. They're going to go for the final inhibitor. Unicorns can't go for a fight because of the Elder Dragon, and it's just going to be a slow bleed out for Fnatic from here on. I
mean, at some point they're going to have to go for an engage. Hook onto Febiven may have been the chance to pull the trigger, but Unicorns of Love, honestly, will just lose up in a straight-on fight, so he needs to find a creative way to make this happen. But with 3 inhibitors down and super minions flooding into the base, Fnatic are going to play this one safe, poke away at the Unicorns as they try and defend. Hylissang and Veritas taking a true shot to the face, and Minion Wave, all of them are just disintegrating in front of the Unicorns of Love eyes. Now, I don't know what they could do against this many super minions, and Fnatic are going to come in here and keep up the pressure. Move is trying to zone off some of the backline. Reckless did take a bit of damage while he's just skirting around the outside. Febiven instant cleanse out. Arrow goes wide once again from Veritas. And Exile, he needs to go big here and land the damage, but Spirit is all over him. He's going to have to back away, but Move is going to drop to open up this fight. Meanwhile, Gamsu and Reckless going to town on this tower. Chachi is tanking up, but he's not doing a good job of it. Exile's going to come in, try and get the burst off, but Reckless able to cleanse and jump away. 5-4-1, and this will be game 1 over to Fnatic.
So Fnatic are able to close it out in a very clean way. They get themselves the Baron, they get themselves the Elder Dragon after the double inhibitor take. And it was overall a good game from Fnatic. We did see once again weaknesses in the early game, but even still, the fans still showing their support.
Yeah, there's another game.
There is still another game. We can still have another tie here in Europe.
And we do love our ties.
After the Unicorns still had a pretty solid early game, I'm impressed. The big thing for me is very much about what seems to be the decision-making or the shot calling coming out from Unicorns. Yeah. Because while their understanding of the game and where to be, what to do, seems to still be pretty solid,
yeah,
you're still seeing these small individual mistakes where Exile overextending in the mid, the rest of the team could have just let him die. I can understand the ultimate coming out from Chachi,
yep,
but at that point they realized, okay, Exile's dead, we can get Spirit because he's overextended trying to get the kill, and we can just back off now. It's fine. It's cool. Yeah. We'll just trade the 1-for-1. We still have the lead. It's only Exile down. It's not a big deal. If we trade it for their fed jungler, then it's cool. We're all good.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they continued to commit. It ended up backfiring, and then that's where things started to go wrong for the Unicorns because they kept trying to force these plays in unoptimal conditions.
Sure.
And we also have to think back to all the options that they had they didn't really capitalize on. How many picks did they actually get?
Yeah.
They had an Ashe Thresh that they never properly utilized. They never properly set up any kind of 1-3-1, and they didn't effectively use the 1-4 when they actually had a fantastic early game lead where they could have started to put that pressure. So a lot of questions from the Unicorns, but there were glimmers of light coming out from them.
There was a lot of glimmers of light. The early game looked very good from them, but that's enough from us. We're going to send it over to the analysts and zip over there to Shox, see what they think about that game.
Zapped. Thank you, Pulse. Early game is something that why are you giggling?
Just the zip thing. Yeah. Our script writer's clearly making fun of Pulse's fashion sense.
What are you talking about?
Script writers?
What is that?
He made that up on the spot.
Everything. Everything's
okay. So this game, though, UOL versus Fnatic, we looked very closely at the early game because that is where actually both teams haven't had the best track record, and it was quite clear from the beginning that the UOL wanted to keep Gamsu down.
Yeah, that, and it was just a horrible start. Fnatic was looking for a lane swap, but then this happened. Reckless checks the brush. Q doesn't connect, so he walks thinking he's safe. He gets poked, and it's a flash. Like in this particular matchup, let's get back to the matchup later, because we have Gamsu dying here. This is the second part, so top lane is now 1 for the Unicorns, and bot lane is getting 1 gank. Gamsu dies. Move will return, second gank. Gamsu dies. A minute later...
Almost a third.
Yeah, Move comes back, and Gamsu, I think, flashes out or manages to escape with like 10 health, but then it's like 30 CS down, and this wave is not frozen, but almost stuck in place here for quite a while. The whole point is just Unicorns, they won both sides of the map, and they had the victor in a very easy matchup early game against Rise, continuously pressuring in. So again, Spirit was kind of stuck, and it was still due to Spirit, though, getting some ganks off that stopped the bleeding a little bit, but there was a 3,000 gold lead at 15 minutes. Unicorns of Love had all the tools ready to just simply close out the game.
So what's up with that, actually? Because yesterday we saw the exact same thing where Spirit has a really bad start to the game, and then he can completely turn it around and switch it on. So what is inhibiting him from doing that from the start?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a super bad start. I mean, it's incredibly hard to jungle if all your lanes are losing.
Yeah.
Like, if you've played 2 minutes of gameplay and your top laner is already dead in bottom lane, like, then there's something wrong in terms of minion management. Like, you can push a lane, but you need to know that you need to either respect the gank or have your jungler to back you up. So that's something not on the same page. I do think that's something that's wrong in Spirit's gameplay. I think he is selfish sometimes and prioritizes an extra camp for himself over his laners, but then his laners need to yield. You know, you can't have advantages everywhere on the map.
What about coming out from the side of the Unicorns of Love? Again, I felt like they were picking fights all over trying to get the advantage that way.
Yeah, I was actually surprised they got Shen as well from this when we talked about it. But then when we look at how the game progressed further, Fnatic actually managed to come back into it. They managed to turn it around with one of the fights that they managed to get. This was in the mid lane. And Crepo, what was the key moment on this? Because this is one of the fights that I didn't quite catch while I was
For
watching
me,
the
yeah,
other
because
stream.
obviously, Stress, you were dedicated to the other game. The problem here is just Exile, he's too far up. Like, normally you can do this when you see enemy top lane, you have 3 bot, but like, because Spirit is so fed, like, look where Spirit and Fevin are. Roll the clip right now, and we'll see that Exile, despite having Shen ulti, like, he feels ultra safe. And in most games, this is not that big of a mistake, but against these particular 2 champions, you just simply can't do that, because Unicorns were pressuring tier 2 in the bottom lane. There was no need for such high pressure from Exile. He could just wait in the middle and respect flank wards. If Spirit comes from the front, Exile can likely escape, but he got flanked by a really strong Spirit here that kept him in the game, and then Spirit kept 3 members busy in the side lanes while Move and Vizichachi got cleaned up. And this is the fight that got Fnatic back in the game. They get a 4-for-1 here on the back end. Gamps is going to use the Equalizer now too, and the fight will be followed up by another 3-for-1 here. So these are 2 big fights that Fnatic picked themselves against a team that should have been way farther ahead, and I think this is something that's plaguing the Unicorns.
Yeah, it certainly is. They just keep picking these random fights. The same happened against Origin. This is, I believe, the other fight that you were talking about.
Another Spirit engage. I hear Stress like it's the same recipe, you know, in a choke point, Braum ulti, Rumble ulti after Spirit herds the cattle, and yeah, we need to see the Unicorns not let that happen. If you have complete control of the map, you need to put your flank vision out. You need to just respect the fact, you know what, they have an OF. Guess what they want to do?
Yeah.
Pop Ghost and run at you.
So do you feel like Fnatic is getting away with a lot in the early game, actually, in these games?
They get away with murder.
Consistently?
They should have lost against Vitality. Any like decent macro team would have slaughtered Fnatic in Vitality versus Fnatic game 1. And if Unicorns honestly had better shot calling, better brain, they would have won this game super hard too.
All right, we have one more replay, actually.
Yeah.
The end game replay. It was already pretty much donezo for the side of UOL, but we did want to show it for
We just want
sake
to
of completion.
watch Fnatic drive the knife in. You know, that's just the last bit. That's just the end. And here, this is frantically, they're just trying to defend and get the Nexus. Spirit is just, for me, he did so much work in this game because he just rushes in, draws aggro. They can't stop him despite having Shen thematically worked pretty well against Olaf. You know, you can't see him, so you just shield the guy that he's running at. You have the zone from the Shen W2 that can block autos. Wasn't enough to undertow spam. Spirit led the charge. I do have to give props to Fnatic. Like, while we're criticizing teams for not beating them, Fnatic need to be praised for being this tenacious and honestly this patient, because many other teams would have tried to fight back sooner and like fight themselves into a bigger deficit. Fnatic waited for the right moment to strike and then struck hard.
Yeah, they did. Player of the game, Reckless. That is actually 2. He's tallied up now in 2 weeks. Is it too early or not in place to talk of kind of a new Reckless since a couple of weeks? Because it seems that there are more games where he gets to step up and be the carry than in the past.
I think in this game, it looked like he had some pretty solid positioning. Didn't actually die throughout the game and had a lot of good picks. I think there's still kind of the problem with Reckless and Yellow Star as you talk about like the early game and what they get away with, that they're not getting punished properly. So I think they're still kind of the same lane, but they're getting a lot of freedom to do so.
So I think their laning phase is well subpar to what you would expect for honestly a top team. I mean, compared to Sven and Mithy, but there's this notion that cleanup AD carries like aren't real carries, but like Reckless does that really well with Ezreal, who is really just like a cleanup AD carry as a champion. And when teams,
Unless you're bang.
yeah, unless you're bang, okay. But if you have like your team creating so much space for you, like, you know, you have a bit of a tank going in or a Rumble just locking people down, and you have Spirit charging in, like Reckless uses that space, steps into it, and is not afraid to go aggressive. And I think he's really just good all-around AD carry this split, and he's consistently been performing And he plays decently from behind too, because like that face check, that flash, many players would just tilt there. You know, he just eats the deficit. From experience of playing against him too, like if he somehow gets behind or he has a really bad support player with him, he still manages to adapt. You have certain players that shine a lot if they get everything going the way they want, but Reckless I think plays well in bad circumstances.
Yep, and that gives Fnatic another victory here, 1-0 up over the Unicorns of Love and over on EU LCS 1.